So the first thing we're going to do is we are actually going to kind of sketch out all the measurements as we have them. Now these don't need to be, this doesn't need to be a perfect sketch here. This just needs to be an outline of how our measurements are going to go, right? So we have, obviously the floor is down here, and then we have a window, and then we have some crown molding, and then we have the ceiling, right? That's basically all you have to deal with. So let's go ahead and get some measurements to figure out where these things go, and then we'll be able to figure out how to install the curtain. So the first thing we can do is just measure how wide the window is real quick. So that's about 42 inches. You don't need to be exact, like it doesn't need to be to the ½ inch or whatever. It just needs to be to the inch itself. So what's 42 inches? That is 68 inches and 25 inches. So let's go ahead and transfer that real quick. So we can go ahead and transfer those measurements real quick. So the window from side to side, that is 42 inches. From the windowsill to the floor was 25 inches, if I recall correctly. And the window length itself is 68 inches. And so that gives this piece a total height of 93 inches. And these are 9-foot ceilings, which have a total height of 108 inches. And so really what we're saying is we have between 93 and 108 inches as to where we're going to put our curtain rod. But we already know that the curtains themselves are 95 inches. So we know that we have here a 2-inch space to actually mount the curtain rods. And then this is 42 inches here, and I believe the curtain rods are 38 inches to like 50 some odd inches. But that would determine where you can place them here, right? So if your range is got a variance of say 4 inches, then you'd say, okay, I can put them 2 inches over here and 2 inches over here. But let's go ahead and look closer at the curtains real quick. Alright, so here are the curtains. They're all folded up, of course, and I don't want to unfold them until I'm ready to hang them. But so these are going to hang off of these garments here, grommets, and we need to know how much material there is between the top of the grommet and the top of the curtain. Because the curtain itself is 95 inches long, but this is inside of that 95-inch range. Hopefully you guys can see this. So if we measure this out, we can see it's just over 1 inch. And so we want to account for that on our little diagram that we're making as to how we're going to be hanging these curtains. So we know that it's 95-inch curtain, 1 inch off for the actual hanging height. Right, so we need to account for that because here's the curtain rod I'm going to be using. The grommet is going to sit right here. So we want to make sure that this is going to hang such that 94 inches from the top of this to the bottom is where the curtain is going to be, right to the floor. So if we, wherever this sits, where the grommet sits on it, it determines the length of our curtain, not the top of the curtain, right? So let's go ahead and map that over to our little diagram, and then there's a little bit on this curtain rod that we want to look out for. So let me try and hold this in a way that makes sense. So right here is your 94-inch mark, right? But down here is the actual mount. So it's about a ½ inch lower to the top of where this mount actually is, which means that our mounting point should really be 93.5 inches and then we have an extra 1/2 inch, gets to us at 94, right? And then the extra inch above that is the top of the curtain beyond the grommet. So that's 95, 94 is the top of the grommet, 93.5, say, is the actual mount point. Okay, so we now know that the grommet is at 94 inches. So if we know that the top of this window is at 93 inches, then we know that about 1 inch above that, at 94 inches, is where the top of the grommet is going to hang from, which means just below this at 93.5 inches is going to be our mount point. So that means if this is 93, right? Yep, 93. Then right above that, 93.5, is going to be where we have to put the mount point for the curtain rod. So the question is going to be, do I have a 1/2 inch of space above this window in order to hang that? Or am I going to have to go off to the side here and go down a little bit in order to mount that? But that tells you how you're gonna mount it, right? So you know that if you want the 94 inches, then you have to be 93.5 inches tall to fit the curtain, and the curtain is 95 inches, but it hangs from the grommet at 94 inches. So I'm gonna go look at this part, see how this is gonna hang, and then once I determine that, I'm gonna set my laser level to whatever height I want, and I'm just gonna span it across the entire thing. So let's go do that. So real quick, I just realized I made a small mistake. What kind of tipped me off that I was making a mistake is that I was pretty sure I was gonna have more than a 1/2 inch of clearance over here, because I've done another set of windows already. And what it was is I overlapped the measurement of the sill down here. So if we, box this out to be what the real window looks like, right? The measurement from the top of the sill to the bottom of the sill is 68 inches. But then I measured from the floor to the top of the sill, which is 25 inches, and that obviously messes us up. This is actually to the bottom of the sill is 21 inches. So that means that this is not 93 inches tall, it means that this is 89 inches tall. And so now, between 89 and 93.5, we actually have a little bit more play there. So that makes more sense. So now, what I was originally intending is, on this outside of the window, you're going to have how the window actually mounts to the wood frame behind it, right? So if we quickly sketch out what the wood frame looks like behind this, you've got the ceiling, you've got the floor, you've got a 2x4, right? And then your other 2x4. But essentially, right, and then the window gets mounted inside of here. So what you can't see behind the drywall, though, is that this 2x4 is going to continue to go all the way up. And so what you want to be able to do is over here, when you're mounting the curtain rod, is you want to mount that curtain rod into the 2x4 that's behind the drywall. If you don't have a 2x4 behind the drywall and you're just using the drywall itself, that might work for a smaller curtain like this window, but I actually mounted into drywall above the slider door, and that was too heavy and it pulled the curtain rod right out of the drywall. So I had to go back and manipulate it. It's now mounted into wood. But anyways, the point here is that wherever I end up putting that curtain rod, it needs to land on a 2x4. And now that we are given some grace room here, where it's now at 89 is the bottom and 93.5 is where we're going, we have some room to actually mount that into the 2x4. Right, so if we're looking at this, this is roughly the shape of the curtain rod. So these are the mount points, and these mount points have to go in the 2x4s here and here. Hopefully that makes sense. You'll see. So let's go ahead and get this mounted up on the wall. Okay, hopefully you can see okay. The sun coming through the window is kind of messing with the lighting on the camera, so it's dark in here. But hopefully you can get an idea as to what's going on. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to mount this. This is my laser pointer, or laser level. I'm going to mount this to the left here, and I'm going to shoot it all the way across the ceiling. I can't tell. Hold on. You know what? I'm genius. Here we go. Now I can see the camera pointing at me. I couldn't quite tell if I was in frame or not. So yeah, I'm going to mount the laser level up here, and I'm going to point it across the top of the windows there, and then we can get to mounting. So let's go ahead and do that. Real quick actually before we do that, one thing you might be wondering is how do I know where to mount on either side of the window? The curtain rod I have goes between 44 and 48 inches long. It actually gets a little bit shorter than that, but they don't say that in the details. The window from sill to sill is 42 inches, and I know that I want to mount it on the left and the right because that's most likely where the 2x4 is going to be behind the drywall. So I'm going to be mounting at the 42 inch width of the window. So yours might be different, but that's how I'm going to do it. So now I'm going to go ahead and mount the laser level here. It comes with a detachable base. This is just Black & Decker. It's like 40 bucks on Amazon. And the little base has this nail in it. So that's how it's going to mount on the wall. And then this thing has little levels on it, which will help me to make the line, hence laser level. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. Be wary with this little nail design though, because it collapses in on itself. I did this on another curtain set and it folded in and scraped up the drywall and didn't look good. Okay, we've got the laser level on now. You can see that nice little line up there. I'm just gonna do a measurement on the other side real quick to make sure it's in the, it has the level bubble on it, but I want to measure on the other side to make sure that it's actually level. It's off a little bit. So this is 93.25. Needs to go up just a little bit. I'm gonna try and measure from over here. Man, you guys can't see me at all. 93.5. Alright, I think that is probably gonna be close enough, good enough. I also noticed while I was doing this that the camera went blank again because the auto leveling on this thing sucks apparently. So let me set this thing to manual brightness and try to get it bright in here consistently for you. And then I'll go ahead and I'm gonna mount the curtain rod after that. All right? All right, so the next thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna drill a little tiny pilot hole to make sure that I am actually hitting the wood stud behind it. That's my dog Dax. So I'm just going to do that real quick. Afterwards I have the mounts in my pockets and I'll just go ahead and I'll start putting those up. So let's go ahead and get started. Now because I am going to be mounting these directly above the window where I presume the 2x4 is going to be, I'm not going to measure the vertical. I'm just going to
sorry, I'm not going to measure the horizontal. I'm just going to align it with where I presume the 2x4 is going to be. Find the 2x4 with the drill and just put it at the 93.5 inch mark that I already have with the laser level. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay. Felt like I hit wood, so looks good to me. Okay. The laser is a little bit fainter on this side. Nope, not wood. Slightly concerning. 3 holes so far and none of them feel like wood, and they're all right where the end of the window should be. Found it. So, stud finder would probably be a good idea, because otherwise you end up with a couple of small holes. But that's also why I used a very small one, so I could do a little bit of searching. I wasn't expecting to have to search for it 4 times. But it's not terrible because that is going to be behind the curtain, so you won't really see it. But now I think we are good to put the mounts in. So again, that's these doodads. Got screws. Let's go ahead and mount them. These are keyed, so you can only put them in one way, and I was trying to remember which way's up. Pretty sure this is up. Okay, I'm not putting that in all the way because I want to test fit it. Alright, so I got the mounts up there. I'm going to go ahead and test fit the curtain rod. Then I'm going to take the curtain rod off. I'm going to tighten up the mounts, put the curtains on, and then finish it up. Alright, I think the test fit went fine, but I realized something as I was doing the test fit. I gotta do the other mounts on the other window over there, so that way I can see the laser level go through. Otherwise, if the curtain's up here, the laser doesn't go through and I have to remount the laser level, which would be wasted effort. So let me just go ahead and get this other side up. Alright, so we've got both of our curtain rods mounted up there. They're all ready to receive the curtains. So we're going to go ahead and open up all the curtains. 90% of them are in bags still. So I'm going to go ahead and open those up and then mount them. Let me get you a close-up on the curtain rod. Not that that's terribly interesting, but essentially there's 2 ways that you could do this. If it was on a slider door, which is one I did back there, this is really the only way to do it. But let me get you a close-up of that. Alright, so here's a close-up of this. So you can see there's the mount, right? The little tab part right there is the actual thing I mounted. This slid on top of it. You can see this is the 93.5 mark. And here's the extra ½ inch, so this is going to be the 14 inches, and this is where the grommet is going to sit up off of that 14 inches. Right here, this is how the curtain rod, how you would actually mount the curtains. So you can unscrew this, as you can see. You undo that all the way, and then the grommets go over the curtains. The front
is for the actual curtains, and the back is for the curtain shears. This is called a double curtain rod, or double rotted curtain holder. I'll come up with a correct name of it in a minute. The other way that you could potentially do it is if you had a long enough one of these where you're middle mounted, you might be able to push these all the way over to get the gap in the middle. It's kind of iffy. You'd still have to undo one part of it, but if you needed to put curtains on this side, you could undo that part, move that all the way over, and then use the middle here. I had to do that over the slider because the slider has a middle bracket to hold up the center. But there's your close-up right there. So let me go ahead and open up the curtains, get them mounted, and then I will show you what that looks like.
So I thought you might want to see how I'm doing these curtains. Pretty straightforward. Basically, you have said grommets, and you take there's a front and a back. There's the front. There's the back. You take your end one, and that becomes your outer shell, and you collapse on top of it. So just collapse the next one, and then the third one you're gonna wrap into itself, into itself, into itself, just in a zigzag. And so by the time you get to this end one, this end should be pointed inward. So you've got an inside flap on both sides. That's not really easy to demonstrate. But anyway, so this is going to be the front, right? So if you had an outside flap inversed, you'd be able to see this from in the room. You want to point that down so that way everything looks good from the inside. So then it will, guess I'm not a curtain rod, it will extend across the curtain rod, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. Alright, so this is what the shears look like without the curtains. And so next up on this, obviously the outer rod right there, that's where the real curtains are going to go. And then we'll take a look at what that looks like. Alright, and here's what it looks like with the curtains on it. And the important bit is when we look down at the floor here, here's your 95-inch curtain. So what we want to make sure that we're doing, well, there's a couple different things, right? So this is a style of hanging curtain which is called kissing the floor because it just barely touches the floor. This is borderline pooling on the floor. Pooling would be probably a little bit more down there. Hi, Dax. You can Google the terms curtain pools and curtain kissing, I think, and probably get a better idea. But this is what we're going for, right? So when we measured 93.5 inches to the mount point, 94 inches to the top of the grommet, 95 inches for the entire curtain length, this is why we're doing this, so we can get that just barely touching the ground look, which is what I'm aiming for. And of course we get that. Hi, Dax. Hi, Dax. You know you're on camera, right? Right. So after Dax gets all of her pets, I'm going to go ahead and mount that second camera, or I'm going to go ahead and mount that second set of curtains up there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mount these little curtain holdbacks or tiebacks or whatever we want to call these things. You might hear my dog whimpering. She wants to go play with another dog that she can see. I am probably going to hang these at doorknob height. That's what I did at the slider and it seemed to look okay. But basically this would look something like this. So roughly like that is what that will look like. Alright, so this is what the curtains look like together. and open. And this is what they look like when they're closed. This is another room, actually, which is why it's darker, but that gives you an idea as to what they look like. So what I'm probably gonna put off till tomorrow is the tie backs, which, you know, they'll hold the curtains open. I'll probably install those tomorrow because I gotta do these 4 windows and then 2 more upstairs, and then I gotta put one separate one on the slider, which is not a slider. So this is my slider, aka an atrium door. It looks like a slider, but it actually opens from here as a normal door and doesn't slide. So every time I say slider, I'm saying this, it's really an atrium. But anyways, on this one, I didn't do shears. I had shears here originally, but I took them off. But it's the same curtains, but instead there's a valance at the top, which is that guy up there. The primary reason I put the valance up there is because it's a big space between the mounting of the curtain rod and the top of the door. This does need to be brought up a little bit, right? So it should be a little bit higher, so that way the door doesn't shut on it. And then down here, I'm going to put another one of these curtain tie backs down here to keep it from folding closed on the door. I'm not really sure how much I like that valance up there. It looks better than no valance at all. I'm just not sure I like that one. I like the windows, but I don't know if these curtains really belong over here. I don't know, we'll see. I just wanted to point out this is a valance. It's normally supposed to go on the very front, so like it would wrap around in front of these curtains and you wouldn't see this extra rod. And then I also wanted to show you what the tie backs look like when they're actually installed.